And we got Lambo on, and we are just about ready to go. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Cool, cool. All right, so taking a look at the actual tournaments yet again, first and foremost, not too many Zerg, so could be a quick portion. But what are your thoughts on Group A? If you have any interesting ones on any of the other matches, feel free to talk about them.
Well, I think Dark. First, I'm going to talk about the Zerg because I know the most about him. I think
Uh huh.
Dark's insanely good against Terran in particular. I think that's by far his most solid matchup. So I think that's a very good group for him. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's also a very lucky draw for him. I think Gumio got a lot of points at like the beginning of the season, and he might not be as hard of an opponent as his seat suggests, especially for Dark, who I think will have his number. So I feel like Dark's chances in general to get to the top 4 are very high because I think he will make it either to the final 4 straight up or he will get it to the second versus second place match because I don't see many players beating him here.
Okay, strong vote of confidence for Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
And then
makes sense.
yeah, I mean I think the top bracket Maru is obviously the favorite, but I think Oliveira is in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
I know he has practiced a lot, and I think Bian is also in really good shape. I think those are both like after the tier 1 players that are definitely in talks to win a tournament. I think those are like I would put them right after, like in rank 7, 8, 9,
Yeah.
somewhere there.
Yep. My feelings as well. How about Group B? Cyril, obviously. A lot of eyes are on him, but then Solar kind of in a bit of a slump himself. Rainer kind of categorized as in a slump. Kind of a redemption story for those two, perhaps. But Cyril, the favorite, yes?
Yeah, Sarah is for sure the favorite. I think Hero for me is a bit of a question mark because he hasn't played that much lately. Hero in general can always be scary for someone like Cyril. Like it's one of the scarier opponents that Cyril can face. Solar too, if Solar was to beat Hero. But I do think that Hero is quite favored against Solar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good friends with Solar, and he really doesn't like the SVP matchup, like at all.
Okay.
I know Solar has also practiced a ton lately, but he hasn't broken to what his usual MMR is. So he has just struggled in general. And yeah. As for Rainer, I think he's in very good shape right now. I think his usually when you practice a ton, it pays off in my experience like a month or two after. Your mechanics get on like on a top level, and then you figure out the matchups slowly but surely, and I think Rainer has reached that place now.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's struggling a little bit to find practice in Europe because in Europe the ladder is pretty dead, so he has to play mostly in custom games, but I think he struggled especially against Terran, and I think he has fixed that. So when he was in Korea, he has struggled in ZVT. He has fixed that. He also feels good against Protoss now. And ZVZ, no Zerg practices at all. So you can take that for what you will. But I think Rainer is in good shape. I think he's the huge favorite against Cure because I also think that that's Cure's worst matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is right now. A little unfortunate too, because it could have been a hype rematch of last year's finals, but I think Rainer's gonna dominate pretty easily. Any thoughts on Clem? Any insight?
I know Clem has been playing quite well in Korea over there. The one insight I have on the laser is that he got flustered about some TVP on the ladder. Apparently there was a desk smash involved. Could have also just been a laser talking out of his ass though. So I would take that with a grain of salt. The one thing I have heard as well is from Solar that Clem feels insane. He said he feels like he has the macro of Maru and the micro of Bian. So that's heavy
Oh,
praise
that is
from
heavy
from
praise.
Solar. I know he reached 7K as well, which nowadays is quite hard to do, like very quickly on Korea. So he's just more solid than he used to, like this entire year already. I think he's the favorite. Classic super scary opponent though in this
Mm-hmm.
in a tournament like this with a lot of preparation time. He never plays the way he used to beforehand, and yeah, he can come up with anything, like a one base all-in, two base all-in, just weird styles in general.
Yeah. Yeah, preparation. I think Clem has been interesting for the series because it's great to hear that he's doing really well, but best of 5 to begin with, he might be able to like get warmed up during it, but I was talking to some other pros and they definitely had a little hesitation because Classic is so good at preparing, and Clem kind of needs a rolling start in his tournaments, it seems like. So I think
Yeah,
Clem is favored, but it might be a little sus.
yeah, for sure. I think Classic is not to be underestimated in this type of stuff. Like if they would play in the ESL Asia right now, I would favor Clem heavily. But in this, I think it's closer than people think for sure.
Yeah, okay. And then last, we got Shin, who is in the one loss and he's out, best of threes. Any chances for him here?
Yeah, he doesn't even show on the bracket yet, obviously, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming Showtime and Shin will get the hardest opponents possible. So because they will have the lowest seeds, it's gonna be very hard, honestly. They don't even know who to prepare for. It can be a little bit of an advantage because they don't have to show anything. This will be more true for Showtime though, because as a Zerg, it's not like it's a more reactive race. He will probably have some all-ins figured out in each matchup and some map-specific strategies prepared. So I think he can surprise. Like if, I don't know, he will get one of the higher seed finishers for sure. That drop down. I don't know. If he gets like a Clem, he can have specific stuff for him prepared. A Dark in a ZVZ or something.
Yeah.
I can definitely see him advance. I definitely wouldn't favor him to advance to the top 4 because I mean this entire bracket is insane to go through. But he's good. He's in good shape, and I think he can surprise.
Okay. Any thoughts on Showtime in a similar boat?
Showtime, I don't know because I haven't seen much of him lately. I think Showtime was in really good shape for the last chance qualifier. And he has been really solid against Zurich, but I don't know how he practices right now. Because no one in the EU ladders, and I don't know who he's playing customs with. I know who Raynor's playing customs with. I don't think Raynor plays a lot with Showtime, so I'm wondering about his practice against Zurich and how he can even get any, because there's no Zergs really that ladder.
Okay.
So in that matchup, I don't know. Against Terran, he's looked good and solid in the last chance qualifier, and that's pretty much the only thing that I can judge.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been pretty insistent about not showing his play in any of the Open Cups. Which I'd like to get your thoughts on, actually. We see some players, like Showtime, who just doesn't seem to show off anything while he practices leading up to a tournament. But then there's Raynor, who kind of has done the opposite. Like, he wasn't playing in the Open Cups, and then he started to again, like a month and a half ago or whatever, and now has played reliably in them. Is this a race thing? Because, Showtime Protoss, Raynor Zerg. Or is it a stylistic thing? Or is it just less important nowadays to, like, hide your style? I mean, obviously, if you have a secret strategy, you want to hide it. But what's your thoughts on hiding your play leading up to a tournament?
I think it depends from player to player. For example, I would always rather not play in Open Cups. Because and if I would play in Open Cups, I would try to think, okay, how can I trick my opponents? Like, I would send my overlords differently than I would in the real event. I would play differently than I would in the real event, because obviously these are public VODs and everyone will see them.
Yeah.
I really doubt that even Raynor plays similarly to how he wants to play in the actual event. The thing is, Showtime plays like one style always, and then he keeps playing that and usually has different openers to get to that style. And he gets really good at that, so I can see him not wanting to do it. Maybe he comes up with a new style, maybe he just tries to perfect it, and he at least wants to hide that he's still playing the same style. I would rather always not play in the Open Cups. I think the reason why Raynor plays in the Open Cups, and he asked me as well if I think it's a good idea, is because it's not that easy to find practice right now in Europe, because all the people that didn't qualify for this are either playing Stormgate or are just taking some time off, because this is obviously the best time to take some time off, because it's the furthest we are from a new event.
Right.
If there is a new circuit. And so yeah, I think there's 2 ways to go about it. I don't think anyone that plays in here will show their real styles or strategies in the Open Cups, really.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good segue. You can hop on the North American region. That's where my replays are. We can take a look at 2 players who I think one seems to be mixing things up, the other one doesn't seem to, and I don't think he cares. But Clem versus Dark. Clem's been kind of mixing up his ZVT builds, and then Dark just does whatever he wants, I think. Okay, there we
go. That is kind of how he rolls.
Yeah, including just playing anything and everything. Doesn't really seem to matter. But Clem has been doing a lot more of, like, 2-base openers. Any thoughts on that? Like,
yeah,
2-base
this comes and goes in phases with Clem. There was like a time, especially before last Gamers Aid, I remember, because I was coaching Raynor for that tournament. So I looked through all the replays of every single player, and I noticed that Clem, right before the tournament, for some reason decided, okay, now I play 2-base bench instead of 3CC bench every single game. He has like phases where he prefers one opening.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
phases is understandable, I guess, but from him, I mean, I guess he kind of set the standard actually with his amazing 3cc play, but isn't 2cc just kind of worse? I mean, what's the benefit of mixing that up?
I think 2cc openers can be pretty strong because they're off timings and people are not used to them defensively, especially in tournaments. You can make some stuff happen. I don't believe that he only plays 2cc, but I can see that he likes getting more map control out early.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that 2cc usually delays, especially obviously because of the economy, is the extra production that you add on. But your first 2 medevacs and your initial push will still arrive at the same timing. So very often the game is decided in tournaments by attacks like that, like your initial harassment killing like 6 drones, and then the very first push with 2 tanks, and then maybe sending all the Hellions to the other side. So it's like a tournament play that I don't mind whatsoever.
Okay.
But I think he has a wide repertoire, and he will probably play a mix between 2cc and 3cc.
Okay. And then you reminded me, just talking about ZVT metas. I was talking to someone, and they're saying that Cyclones are kind of making an appearance again as Terran. It was Kelazar, that's who it was. He was saying that there's actually, like, Hero Marine, for instance, has done a couple of Cyclone builds on his stream. Are we going to see mech? I personally haven't seen many of mech at all in this matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very uncommon. I could see, for example, like Cure prepare a mech build for Raynor. Especially on Zerg map picks, which there aren't really any big ones, but for example on Goldener I could see Terrans busting out the mech in a tournament like this. And probably Gumio if he faces Dark.
Right.
Could also play mech, but yeah, it's absolutely not the standard. It's more so like the 2 Cyclone openers from like T-Rex Reaper that exist kind of out there.
Okay. All right, and this is a case of him going for the 2 base 1-1-1. I've now forgotten what happens in these games, so watching along with you. I've also noticed that Dark is doing a lot less Roach play. Do you think that is... What are your thoughts on that?
I can't really read Dark. I don't know. He's like... he's impossible to read. He also just plays Nidus every game in the ESL Open Cup, and then he plays GSL and does the same Link Queen Nidus 3 times against Protoss, so...
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you if he's just pretending and then in the tournament he's gonna play Roach every game like always, or if he has changed his mind in that regard.
Yeah, he's really not doing it much often at all. Oh, I do remember this game. Hey, this was actually very interesting. It ends abruptly, but he had actually probably not even really that much to discuss. The Hanlians do too much damage, and canceling the 3rd CC wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, interesting. It's pretty funny because many people see Clem's run-by defense as his weakness, but he's actually the best at defending run-bys. He just has most of his units on the map, and that's why he kind of gets that. But he's by far the fastest at reacting. And if you just run by with Zerglings, very often he instantly mineral walks them, and you barely kill any.
Yeah.
So he is very, very good at dealing with that type of stuff. And he's also, because he's just the most accurate with his mouse and the quickest, he manages to resaturate and everything while still microing at the front, where he just takes a trade that is better than the other Terrans, both defending and offensive whenever stuff like this happens. It's like one of the most impressive things that when I watch Clem's stream, for example, or just stand behind Clem, is when he defends a run-by and then still micros the medevacs on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
Twitch Prime sub received.
A fast player for sure. What is this one? I don't remember what happens in this game, but I'm pretty sure it's not an 8 racks because this is Alcyone and wouldn't have talked to you about that. Seems like an incredibly powerful build, the 8 racks, any variation of it on this map in particular. So we're seeing some Zerg certainly struggle against it, but we don't always see Terrans do it, perhaps because it is a little too obvious. They shouldn't do it every single time. But then when they do it, I've only ever seen one player, I think maybe now 2 actually, maybe Dark and Raynor have both done it, but taking the left side of the map entirely in these positions. What are your thoughts on this map and that 8 racks dilemma? And do you like this expansion pattern, or do you want that triangle 3rd faster?
I think this is better if you want to go for like a Lingbane defense and you don't try something special against an Atrax. This is also better if you go Muta. You just expand away. But the later stages of the game are harder with this. If you play against someone that plays Bio Widowmine and then takes a fast fourth, like Clem used to play like that every game, right?
Right.
Where he just takes his own fourth and then he tries to deny the fifth of the Zerg, just clears creep at first and just tries to trade that way. Pre-trades the entire game. Then taking a 6 base for Zerg is almost impossible. Because the 6 base will be the one behind the minerals or the rich gas on the Terran side, both of which I highly doubt you will have creep in front of against Biomine. So against that it's worse. Against Atrax it's better. I think there are also ways to hold Atrax, but you need to either rush Vipers, like specifically rush Vipers, scout for it right away, or
Okay.
go something around Roaches. But yeah, obviously this map against Atrax is like impossible to catch reinforcements because of the watchtower or even counterattack if there's like a single air unit at the top. So yeah.
So is that the biggest threat for Zergs on this map? Something that they're going to be hyper aware of and are going to play to, and then our Terran's going to try and metagame that?
I don't think you have to play to it at all as Zerg, unless you
Okay.
want to go Roaches in particular. I think you can do it reactively. You scout with an Overseer and see if there's extra Rex, or you scout with a Zergling to see if there's for base. This map's also very good for camping. So the map is generally just a lot of Terrans really like it.
Yeah. And so why do we see it so often then? Because I think I see it often in even best of threes for the Zerg.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just the one map choice that the Terran gets and they always push this? Or are there other maps that are worse for Zerg?
No, there's actually a Zerg map pick usually, because there's so many
Uh-huh.
maps that are good for Terran in this map pool that
This is
like,
still one of the
you
least
get
worst.
Dynasty. Dynasty is borderline unplayable. Like I would always rather play on Atrax on this map than someone on Dynasty who starts with a gold where you don't have your own gold.
Okay.
And then Ghost River exists, and Ghost River just you can't take any bases past 6, and the Terran can just sit there and do nothing. And you don't really have a winning condition unless the Terran messes up. Like trying to take a base on the Terran side is almost impossible. You need to have an edge to do that. So if the Terran just doesn't attack to begin with, it's a very simple game plan on Ghost River. So usually Ghost River and Dynasty are must vetoes, and even after that, Crimson is almost impossible to play late game on. Honestly, I was in a bootcamp with Bian, and I kept playing him on this map, and I had like games where I was up 50 supply, but I just couldn't end it. And I asked him what I'm doing wrong, and he just said, "This map's not possible."
Wow. Okay. What map was that?
Crimson Court. I
Crimson
think a
Court,
lot of
okay.
Terrans first pick
Alright.
it. It's good for Zerg in the early game, but it's terrible for Zerg later on. It's just that Terran takes a forward base in the center. There's no attack paths. They have a sensor tower.
Yeah.
They don't even need a planetary on the fourth. They usually put an orbital there even.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of the story of this season has been the latter maps are not very, very good for Zerg. First push out here. So, you said that this kind of happens around the same time as a 3cc version?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Yeah, sometimes even hits stronger
mhm.
because they have an extra tank. Because they take the gas earlier, so yeah, their timings line up a little bit sooner. But the thing that the 3cc has is way earlier 4th cc and way earlier 4th and 5th Rex. So for example, if you want to 8 Rex, opening with 3cc would be better.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Don't know how interesting this game actually gets. This entire best of 5 is out of my brain at this point.
Was this a ESL Cup or?
Yes. Or it was a KSL finals. I'm pretty sure it was an Open Cup. I'm not sure. Do you know if Clem is still in Korea, or has he gone back home?
I think he's still in Korea.
Wow. Is he gonna go there to Saudi from there?
I think he's gonna go directly. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Well, as long as he's good with it, I would not. But
Yeah.
he's having a good time.
Yeah, I wonder. He
Yeah.
also has played some Stormgate, but yeah, overall the word I've been getting is that he is on point and he's quite good.
Yeah.
the one thing that Dark does super different from every other Zerg is that he stays below worker count always.
Uh huh.
He doesn't really like any Zerg in this game would have went 90 drones and he stays on like 76. Even in his game against Maro, he stayed so low on workers. and then he just tries to mass counterattack, like with a massive army and having barely enough at home to survive. That's usually his game plan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is kind of a basic one. But speaking of Dark's game plan, I don't know if you've caught Dark trying to go Swarm Host in late game.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, okay. Well, that did happen versus Bjorn on either Golden Order or Oceanborn. I forget which one. But yeah, I've asked a couple people's opinions on it, and most of them are just like, I think it just was a one-off, like not really super important. But I don't know. I think Kelazur said that he actually kind of liked the idea. Like basically, Dark got into this massively like overpowered position, took the entire map. Was kind of doing a good Zerg thing anyway, but instead of flooding with Lings and Hydras and like tech swaps, he literally just added like 18 Swarm Hosts and continued to do Ling run bys with the Locust attacking. It was interesting. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that potential for the late game ZVT?
I don't think that's gonna happen like in EWC, but if I was to read into it, the one thing that Bjorn does differently from the other Terrans is that he goes 5 barracks, and when he camps, he adds 2, sometimes even 3 extra factories, so he has less marines, so less stuff to kill the locust before they land. So maybe it's a versus Bjorn specific thing. I think he was probably just feeling funny.
Yeah.
And figured he was gonna do that, because usually Swarmos is a good way to throw, because the Terran can get to max out. It's not a great unit at breaking the Terran once they're at a high supply, and they're super supply inefficient Swarmos. So yeah, I'm not sure about it.
Yeah. They didn't seem to do enough, in my opinion, either. But I think it was kind of just because Bjorn was so tank heavy. He also himself had like 18 tanks. So
yeah, maybe it's an idea on Crimson Court, because that map is really unplayable against Bjorn. I will try it next time myself.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Could happen. And then I think we're seeing some typical like TVZ beats here. But one thing that I want to talk about before just kind of leaving TVZ, which I think I don't necessarily have too many questions on. Yeah, just watching Clem take battles. So, did you read Oliveira's post about his matches versus Cyril?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, actually. I had someone from my Twitch chat told me, because I don't check Reddit, and he said that he has unbeatable builds on 2 maps, which you should never do. I'm not sure if that's what you're referencing, but I couldn't believe that, and you should never do that. Like, it's a complete no-go in the pro gaming scene to
I missed
to
it.
say.
What did you say?
Oh, okay. So what Oliveira said? That's the only thing I know from that interview. So I don't know if even that's what you're referencing, because that's what my Twitch chat told me. But is that Cyril has specific builds prepared for Crimson Court and Ghost River. The 2 maps that I just said were basically impossible, right? Or no, it was actually Dynasty and Crimson Court. So 2 of the maps that you would usually veto. I think that you can't do. You absolutely can't tell the public that your custom game opponent has really good builds on a specific map.
Oh, he
I'm not
kind of
sure
made
if that's what you're referencing. Yeah.
Okay. No, it wasn't, but that's interesting. He kind of made a little oopsie there in his business, I guess.
Can't do that.
Whoopsie-daisy. But no, I was actually referencing like he broke down his match versus Cyril at Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he talked about I'm actually going to try and find it for you. I might have upvoted it. Maybe that'll be easier. Because I think it was very interesting, but I haven't really seen anything develop from it, because he was kind of like talking about how he actually kind of had a specific build that he was doing, like a more improved ZVT, which I thought was very interesting, that maybe he was going to push the meta forward, but then I haven't really seen anything about it. So he was doing like really absurdly fast 4th CCs of his games versus Cyril. I don't remember if you remember that.
That's not pushing anything forward. That's just going. Piotr has been doing that for the last 2 years. I think he just figured it out 2 years later than Spirit. If I'm being honest, I think it's genuinely it's a good build. It's very hard to punish. The weakness of that is Muta, but Muta is so uncommon that it fits nicely into the meta.
Oh, okay. Interesting that Mutas could be an option here. Yeah, it was all the way. Because I mean, it's funny. Like Spirit might have been doing this entire time, and it just didn't get into the right public match to be as exciting. But
Yeah.
because he had other good points, and it's one of those types of things that I think only you like. I could just read it and be like, oh, interesting, but you would be much better at reading into it.
It's funny because Spirit is actually strategically quite good, and he also makes his own builds.
Uh-huh.
For example, there was a while where Bjorn 2-base solined every single TVZ, and he fell behind every time. And as his teammate, I tried to get him off it. But for a suggestion, in order to convince him, I showed him a replay of Spirit beating Rogue before Rogue went to the military, so when Rogue was really good. And that actually convinced him. And then Bjorn played that single build order every single game for the next half a year.
Okay. I linked it. I finally found it. So, yeah. The European Terran don't want to practice too much with Cyril. Macro
This
was
is not even
fixed.
This is not even the same interview I was talking about. The interview I was talking about was like 3 days ago.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I also
Yeah.
upvoted and read that one. Yeah, that's why I was like, no, this is his breakdown of his matches. Yeah, Ollie believes that only way to beat Cyril is hardcore macro and direct on-your-face push. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's how you generally should play against Zerg. Unless you're Clem, then you can play. I don't even know what that means, but I'm assuming he either means like a 8 Rex all in, or you just straight up camp. So
Right. Yep, that's pretty much
I
what he
think
means.
Yeah, I think the only one that can make Widow Mines and concentrating work against Cyril is Clem, because he's the only one that can match his speed and
Okay.
cleanliness of play.
You're saying that Maro's specific tactics in the finals didn't challenge Cyril because he never follows a cheese. And I know there was definitely some games in that final where it was just very obvious that Cyril knew what was coming. But then there was a game, like there was a game where it seemingly like nothing happened out of the ordinary or nothing that really set anyone particularly back. And then Cyril just showed up with ultras and pushed in a choke on Ghost River. Do you remember that one?
I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of it. Just looked absurd, right, on the surface.
Yeah.
What do you remember what happened there? Can you kind of break that down in your mind?
Yeah, I remember it pretty well. I think, like Cyril, that was pretty much an all-in from Yona because that was Ghost River. You have to end the game. So what he did was he rushed the ultras insanely fast and then hit a timing with them. And what Maru does, if he thinks it's going late game, is he stops marine production, which I think is very smart. I think more Terrans should do this, especially against lurker styles. At like 160 supply, 150, he stops making marines and only builds tanks, starport units, and ghost. But because of that, he had less army. And I think he was slightly out of position or something. I think there was something else wrong with that fight.
Yeah.
That ended up losing him the game. But basically, he didn't have many marauders, and he tried to go ghost right away, and he skipped bio production. He just didn't max out on bio first, which is the reason he lost. I think he was even ahead in that game, if I recall correctly, a little bit. And I was a little bit surprised when I looked at the game myself, but when I looked at the replay, it did make sense. But yeah, that was like a fast ultra all in. Like Cyril, that was like a timing build.
Yeah.
Even though it's tier 3. It was low worker count, quick tech, quick 8 gas, and then, yeah.
Okay. Good notes. And then I think this is just literally what stuck out in my brain, which is that Oliveira said that Maru's macro needs to be revisited. Do you agree, or do you think that's a incorrect?
I didn't look closely enough at Maru's macro. I know that all
Okay.
pro gamers have their own macro flaws. Like if you would be surprised how many games are just straight up won because of supply blocks. Like Dark loses so many games because his
I was
supply
gonna
block only
say,
makes
like,
5
I don't know.
overlords.
I cast a lot of dark, and there's a lot of supply blocks. They're pretty noticeable.
Yeah. That loses so many games. It also happens to Terrans all the time. Like if they many supply drops and stuff. If they lose an entire production cycle, it's probably the worst for them. So it definitely does happen for all top players, including Oliveira.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think there's it was very clear when you really looked at those games that Maru was also just feeling off, besides his just general gameplay, I guess, because he had like a substantially late upgrades, which is pretty, I think, rare for him. But Bjorn always does like armor for weapons, so I've definitely noticed some things for sure. But Maru just was completely off in those finals. Okay. Let's check out some ZVP. I got Dark versus Classic here. I don't remember what happened in the games.
Okay. Where are you getting the replays from? The
Generally Open
Open
Cup replays, and then also KSL.
Yeah, but where did you get Open Cup replays? I didn't even know they.
Oh, I'm
released
sorry.
those.
I'm sorry. No, if you're in the Discord for the ESL StarCraft Discord,
Okay.
I don't know if you're in the casters channel, but there's a pin to a Google Drive that has all the replays.
Okay, that's a secret tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so you could just apply to be a caster, and they'd probably let you in if you're not already.
Yeah, I have not applied yet, but I don't know if that's there. I didn't know this exists, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's actually be pretty useful for you. But if you ever want any from the recent ones and you can't get access in time, just let me know and I'll send you some. All right.
I will do that. Yeah.
Okay. So ZVP. What maps? Before we get into the games, what map? Oh no, I do remember this one. Shit. Okay. But what maps are good for Zerg and which ones are the ones you veto?
Good for Zerg is Crimson Court and Post Youth are the two that are by far the best for Zerg. Crimson Court because you get the rich gas and it's very short rush distance, so you can walk queens very easily. The only real safe third base if you want to go Stargate is the linear one, and then the wall is very exposed, and if you kill the rocks, super easy to rotate on that map between natural and third. So you basically always get the concave if you're attacking as Zerg. So Crimson Court is super good. Kind of forces Protoss into weird builds like glaives and any type of aggressive stuff. Like the standard on that map, what a lot of Protosses do is just trying to blind counter Queen Walks where they go one Oracle and then straight Twilight and Blink, which is not really a build on other maps. So it's that map, and then Post Youth where you just get a gold base and the Protoss doesn't. So that's pretty clear. And then the third map that Protosses veto is it depends from player to player. Like some Protosses veto this map just because Zerg can take a gold. But this gold is not even that good because the drones run for so long. It's either that or some of them veto side delta.
Okay.
Most of the maps are kind of in the middle, and then the two Protoss maps are Golden Aura and Dynasty. Dynasty for obvious reasons, and then Golden Aura just because it's impossible to attack.
Okay. And then I do remember these games. We'll go over this one just because we're already into it, but I think the other games aren't that great. I'll actually go over the most recent Rainer Max Pax games instead. But this one I've now understood, like, this is not exactly common, but it does happen. This hatchery at the gold, and then this cannon rush response. Very interesting. It's the only game I've seen so far, but yeah, talking to Mana, he was like, it happens. And then he had thoughts on what the Protoss would or should do in this situation. As Zerg perspective, what do you do now that this has happened?
I have very strong thoughts on this too. I've had this situation many times, and every time this happened, I cancel the hatchery, go double hatch, and I'm miles ahead. Yeah, legit every time.
That's what Mana said as well.
You cannot. This cannon rush is terrible. I don't know why some Koreans haven't figured this out, but it's really terrible.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe because the Korean Zergs haven't figured out, you should cancel this and then go double hatch.
Yeah, I think Dark is doing some freestyle response. I don't know what this is, but I guess he wants to go Ravagers and cross the map.
Yes.
But yeah, if you cancel the hatch and you go double hatch, you have speed early enough for the adapt, and you're just ahead in workers. And it's either the Protoss tech is delayed or the Nexus is giga late.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's very comfortable, honestly, from the Zerg side.
Okay. Yeah, Dark tries to all in. Like, he peers with Roaches, but then adds a Baneling Nest as well, and it doesn't work at all.
Like the way you can look at it is if a Protoss blocks, right, you take a third base, and you never see that get cannon rushed, even though there's a lot of third bases that you can easily cannon rush. Because then the Zerg still gets a natural, and the cannon rush doesn't, like, you just cancel the hatchery. The cannon rush doesn't deny any mining time. You get your natural up, like the real natural, and then you just take a different third. In this one, it doesn't even block the third base, so it's really not good.
Yeah. Okay. And then, well, okay, so actually, before we move on, so what happens if they don't cannon rush you? You continue with the attack, and it's a pretty good cheese, or
With the gold base?
yes.
It's just normal. You start from a little further forward.
Uh-huh.
Defending some stuff early on, like the oracles, can be a little bit harder. Obviously, you can hit queen walks significantly harder as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's a lot of mind games going on with Protoss either playing safe builds against queen walks or just playing normal. Honestly, the Zerg doesn't get very far ahead from it because you lose a lot of mining time at first for sending the drones over,
Mm-hmm.
then you get a slight boost, and then you lose mining time again because you're going to be oversaturated, and theoretically your third base needs to rally to your natural. But you can't do that because the space in between your third and your natural is so big that you just can't transfer drones there.
Yeah.
So the Zerg is forced to take a early second gas and then either do an all-in or a fake an all-in, and then it goes relatively standard. Like it equalizes even if the Protoss does nothing.
Okay. All right. Good note. Now we can get into this series. So I just cast this. It's pretty fresh. This is the game that we end up having the Stargates appear much quicker. And I want to get your thoughts generally on that play on Amphion. I mean, I think it works out logically well for Max Pack. So he takes the left side of the map as well, as triangle third base. And then he goes Blink, but really is going into double Stargate carriers pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Raynor barely holds. I don't know if you've seen this series.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Okay.
I love this game actually. I think Raynor
Okay,
played
great.
phenomenal in this one.
All right, then let's fast forward, get to the good stuff. Yeah, because Raynor makes this kind of last second hold, and then it gets kind of a fun, long back and forth game.
Yeah. So this map is usually a Protoss pick. So in a best of 5, Raynor vetoed one map, and then instead of picking Golden Aura, I think Max Pax picked this, surprisingly.
Okay.
The reason this is good for Protoss is because the dead airspace behind the bases and the fact that you can enter the Zerg base with the oracles from legit 360 degrees. So it's impossible to have vision everywhere with overlords, which you absolutely can do on every other map.
Hmm.
So it's very difficult to hold stuff in the early game, and you can also camp
Oh.
behind natural third and main base with the oracles, and then go in there with stasis wards at any moment,
You're right.
which is
Yeah.
to all 3 bases. It's very, very difficult to always pay attention to that.
Oh.
And on top of that, the adepts can hit the third base mineral line from behind the hatchery, so you need to play a little bit different in the early game. Usually you need to run down with the queen from the main base, starting the extra queen from the main. So the early game is just all sorts of messed up.
Gotcha.
Other than that, in the later stages, it's kind of a good map for Zerg. But early on, it's super difficult to get into like an even mid game against Protoss. That's why most Zergs have this as a third veto in like best of 3s.
Okay. Yeah. That's a very good point about the Overlord coverage. We also had Max Pax. I think this is the game where he actually revelationed the bridging creep tumors from main to natural. And I just thought it was interesting because it was like the first thing that he chose to do. Well, maybe
Mhm.
like exact first, but he did it quickly, and even though it was quickly replaced too, it sounds like it kind of adds to the burden of the early game for Zerg, which was neat.
Yep.
And here's
Yeah, so
where we have the transition.
I honestly think Max Pax did this because he saw Raynor lose twice against Goblin in the team league.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
This is not a normal build, but Goblin beat Raynor once with this, and then the second game he kind of won, but then this was realistically it was a win. I counted it as a win, but he went 1-1 with that build. And this build is very weird. I don't really know what it's supposed to be good against, because you don't naturally go Spire against this Blink move out.
For sure.
And if you just don't do anything, you're I think in a good spot if you just make a lot of drones. But yeah, one cool thing that Raynor does on this map that usually Zergs don't do is he mines the left side. And the reason this is not a natural move is because then they can just warp in at their third base, you can't counterattack, and they can blink pressure there and constantly blink back.
Yeah.
But he went so Ling heavy that he was like, okay, if he goes to the left, I will counterattack at the right, and if he goes to the right, I will counterattack at the left. And he tried to bust the wall there with the Banelings.
Mhm.
And that's why he actually mined out these minerals, which I never even thought of, because it's also annoying later on against Zealot run buys. So when Protoss takes the side, I usually try to just have the cleanest game possible and then go into the later stages. Because you can't attack a Protoss, obviously. On this 3-base setup, you have to walk up a ramp somewhere.
Okay. So he doesn't know about the Stargate, correct? Are there any signs that he saw that I'm not seeing?
No, he has no idea.
Okay, yeah.
He
that's
probably
what I
thinks
thought.
it's Blink Storm for now.
Okay, yeah. So he still wants to try and play with this like left-right massling, since he's got him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
think his plan for now is just to go Ling Lurker, basically, which is good against Link into Storm.
Sure.
And then he finds some damage here. And then he accidentally finds carriers.
Yeah. Yeah, he got into the carriers. I mean, is seeing that +1 researching at this point also a reveal? So he didn't get into the main base.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah.
Yeah. I think this build is kind of a bait for corrupt Rodents because like the carrier builds, the normal ones, they die. The ones that you know from the old Void Ray patch. These all die to corrupt Rodents now, but this build I think is good against the corrupt Rodent. But if you just play passive, this is not a great. Like stalkers and carriers don't synergize that well. He doesn't have a lot of carriers fast, so you can't push into really anything, even just queens. Hold the carriers, and the stalkers are also not good against most of the ground units without any AoE support later on. So it just, even if you don't scout it, you're fine. Realistically, unless you're going for either Muta, which is unlikely, or you're going for Roach Lingbane and try to attack into the Protoss. Those are, I think, the two things that this should be good against. But straight up late game, this should be bad for Protoss. Because the army is just not good against the late game Zerg army.
Okay. I could see it working if it was a little, it was more flawless, basically. If Raynor maybe had not seen it coming, then the queens aren't pulled together, or maybe it's a little bit of a snowball. But then it seems like he can always get enough Hydras. There just aren't enough interceptors.
Yeah, I think it's difficult against us to get the right army composition for the eventual push. Like, this has one strong timing. I think if he didn't take that much damage, he would have started up charge faster and then hit a maxed out timing with... Or he actually has charge. Never mind. But he would have hit a timing with, like, Archon, Storm, carriers, maybe 6 carriers, and mass ground, and then just try to attack with that. And the most important against it is to actually have enough anti-ground. The anti-air, you can always usually muster up against a couple of carriers on creep with spore crawlers, but not losing against the ground I think is the trick there.
Okay, yeah, that's the trickier stuff. Okay, I don't know if you have any other notes about that game. Goes on for quite a while.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Raynor does way better than any other Zerg in that game is that he always has the units on the map and he's striking the moment that MaxPax tries to take map control. He does that way better even than like Cyril or Dark. He is insanely good at having like an extra control group that's out on the map and that punishes the move out, and he also constantly like tried to attack the rocks to open up a third path. Like he realizes what he wants to do, and I think he did that quite well. I think that's the best game he played.
Okay, yeah.
This game, he wanted. So we told him we can play. We're playing Dead by Daylight at the moment, and we told him if you finish fast the grand finals, we're gonna play with you. So that's why he did this.
Is that
the reason. Yeah.
All right, I was just chalking it up to experimenting in the Open Cup, but that's funny. Is there any way? Okay, but even with that little joke, funny reason aside, I mean, does this actually have any validity against any Protoss?
Yeah, this is a good build on. I know Scarlet has a very strong version of this, where she beat a lot of good players with it. Where you bring drones. She brings drones now, and then she puts spines on the other side. I think MaxPax would have died against it. This build loses against the drone pull, pro pull, if it is the version that Scarlet does. But, like, legit, if MaxPax did this response, and he pulled 3 drones for spines, I think he would have won. But the way he does it now just can't work. There's no way.
Yeah. I was actually thinking he'd bring the drones. He seemed already so dedicated, but yeah, he didn't. So if it doesn't, the wall doesn't break, and it's a pretty easy game after that.
Yeah, exactly. Forge also beats this, I think.
Oh. Okay. All right, so we can't, beat him quickly. So
Yep.
I think this game, I think he goes into mutas and it works.
The map didn't load, so I can see the map now. Yeah.
Golden Aura.
Oh, Golden Aura. Yeah, I think like everything went wrong for MaxPax, and then he went mutas, so it was a free win.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how did everything go wrong again?
I think he didn't kill that much, and he lost some units. I didn't pay too close attention to this game, but it looked very one-sided from the couple of times I looked over.
Oh yeah, it ended up being really one-sided. I just don't remember why. Oh, I remember it actually now. Yeah, there's this moment where MaxPax is out in the map with Blink Stalkers, and he blinks aggressively, realizing too late that there was like double the amount of lings than I think he thought there was. gets surrounded by the Lings +1 melee, and then the mutas show up. So it was pretty brutal timing.
Yeah, that's obviously that can't happen.
Yeah. And I just want to maybe just get one thought on when that happens and kind of why MaxPax thought that he could do what he did. You know, what he was seeing and what he wasn't seeing, basically. Because it ended up being a game-ending mistake, but it also was kind of like a, why did he get in this position in the first place? Like, not obviously he saw something. I thought it was obvious that a bunch of Lings were running around and it was way too much, but MaxPax did not. So I want to know what he missed.
Yeah, I'll see. I didn't watch the game yet.
Oh
But
yeah,
this is already bad.
yeah, that's right. This also happened. Yeah, this is a terrible defense at the third. Loses Stalker, loses 6 probes, 7. Jesus.
Yeah. No, that's not good. He lost more probes than he killed drones. That's not a good sign.
No. And was that just like, an odd amount of Lings to show up, or is that just like really ideal timing?
I don't know. Can you check? Can you go back?
Sure.
I can, and then I can tell you, because I'm not sure.
Let's get the building started.
It's very uncommon for stuff like this to happen, because at that time I think usually you have stalkers there. Okay, so there's 4 adapts on the map. Yeah, he just played greedy. He just played greedy. He didn't leave an oracle nor an adapt at home, and he didn't make a battery.
Yeah.
Basically, he just skipped the battery.
Yeah. Okay. That was a bad start. He never gets full vision on what his opponent is doing. And he moves out with Blink Stalkers. I was talking to a Protoss, maybe Skillus, but he was talking about, I think it was the Blink Stalker build where you delay the forge, like the like the defensive Protoss style on like Crimson Court or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's 4 gateways coming down, like maybe before the 3rd base came down, and then you delay that forge. Anyway, I was talking to Skillus about this, and he was like, well, it makes a lot of sense to do it on a map where you plan on being defensive, so any of those maps where that Zergal lane is really popular. But then he thinks that it's kind of useless, I think. I don't know if he said useless, but it's not very good on any other situation. But occasionally I'll see Hero do that type of build, and then he'll be really aggressive with his Stalkers, maybe even place Epoxy Pylon, but he's not 7, 8, or 8 gating or anything like that. Just want to get your thoughts on what do you think about that? The addition of the gateways and the addition of a little bit of a Stalker push compared to just that very tight Blink +1 macro style.
I think that that build actually it hard counters anyone that tries to go like fast lair and roaches as a defense. You straight up kill like 6 gas Zergs. Like there's some scenarios where the Zerg just straight up has a build or loss against it. Especially when Hero does it. Hero is very good at it. Against that build, even if you just don't have +1 melee, it's a pain in the ass to defend. So it is strong on maps where you can attack nicely. And it is also a super snowbally build if you get early damage done. It's almost impossible to defend on a map like Ghost River. If you lose, I don't know, 8 drones plus.
Right.
It becomes almost impossible. So yeah, that build is I think it's a little better than maybe Skilos gives it credit there. But you can do the same with a forge as well, so I understand why he says it. It just hits a little bit. It does hit a little bit harder.
Okay. Yeah, because that's like Ghost River was what I was thinking of too. Really nice like pylon placement on the low ground and abuse the chokes. Seemed okay, but yeah, I think he had a negative view on it. And he said that it actually build counters. You said six gas, like fast layer roach defense.
Yeah. If you try to go like that's what we used to play, and we changed to +1 melee almost every game. Like we play +1 melee now 80% of our games just because of that build. Actually, we used to just go fast layer every game with a roachborn at the front and then a late evolution chamber. And then we would go +1 missile, and that transitions super nicely into, for example, lurkers. It transitions super nicely into swarm host. It is super good for a spire because you have an early layer. But if you try to defend this with roaches, even if you try to get fast roach speed, the stalkers will overwhelm you. They trade for free and super effectively against roaches. So the only thing that you can do is what we used to do back then, is we try to mass ravagers and try to hold somehow, but it's really nonsensical. The only way you can play against these blink stalkers is if you rush if you just get a lot of Zerglings and you delay your gases. So if you're
Okay.
playing against a Zerg, for example, if I'm playing against Classic, because he doesn't do this, I would always still play like that. If he ever was to do the Blink Colin, I would just straight up die. But it's really good against a lot of different builds. For example, any fast Fleet Beacon build. So 2 Stargate Tempest, 2 Stargate Carrier. It's very good against. Against Charge Lot Archon, going straight 6 gas with Roachhorn is super good against as well. But against this Blink Stalker build, you just are dead. On most
Okay.
maps. If it's not a super big map and you don't have the early game of the gods, where you lose 0 drones and you kill an Oracle, then it's a pain in the ass to defend if you don't have high Zergling numbers.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And this is the moment where I think it was really the nail in the coffin. I think he just literally lost track of how many Zerglings there were. Because it's one thing like if he had retreated and then just got caught, you know, you're like, oh, that sucks. But he does this, and it's just like, well, I don't. Why'd you do that?
That maybe we misclick. I don't know. It looked like maybe he thought the links were somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah,
He was dead
okay.
anyways. Like he was like legit 100% dead anyway.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it seemed like a fumble, like one of those games where you just like are making so many tiny mistakes, you make a big mistake eventually.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other games you want to look over? Like anything super interesting that I should know about in the rest of these games? Next game was a Spire build that was disastrous. After
Yeah, I
an
don't.
adept build?
It was Glaives twice the next 2 games.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I didn't let if you want we can watch the next game because I didn't actually catch that one. I was
Mhm.
making dinner I think at that time.
Okay. Yeah, this is the I mean game 5 was very interesting as well actually. And then Rainer winning, but this
Yeah.
one was a little less so just because it was pretty obvious after a point what was going to happen.
Game 5 was the build that MaxPax used to play like every game, and I think Rainer kind of underestimated it a little bit, and he basically died because he made a lair. You can't make a lair against Glaives, really.
In game 5?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
he
think
actually
on this
won
map-
that.
I know, but he was
Oh,
dead.
okay. He shouldn't
was-
have.
I mean, that game was super close, right? There was back and
Yes,
forth.
yes.
I think he was kind of dead.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, I think his links killed like the 3rd base of MaxPax twice or something,
Okay.
and he barely got the defense. And I think MaxPax had a move command in the engagement on Rainer's side, so in my mind, Rainer lost that one. At least the early game he lost
Okay.
because he made a lair. You can't make a lair against us. The reason Rainer made a lair was because in this game,
Uh-huh.
Rainer asked me about this game, but I wasn't watching it, so he explained it to me. And I think what I remember from him is that he did the transitional glaives, right, with the Robe.
Yeah.
And Rainer thought he under-droned. So I told him a drone count that I think he should go to against this. And he might have confused the game 5 build for the same one as this. And then
Sure.
in game 5 he did 6 gate, which just has more adepts.
Right. Yeah, and the power of kind of playing the best of. So I think in this game he stops at he gets 38 drones after all the buildings and whatever. And then the next game he got to 42, I want to say.
Yeah,
Before the
42 and
adepts.
lair.
Yeah.
I think it's... The drone count was fine, the lair is not fine. Lair is too much gas. It's a gas of 4 roaches and the early game is... It's a lot.
Okay.
Even making spores against this build is... Like very often when you watch Protoss play against the Zergs will skip spores against this glaives, just hoping that there won't be DTs,
Right.
or they'll get the spores. So at first you can't tell for sure if it's DTs or not, so you get the spores, then you cancel it the moment you see an extra adept warp in. That's usually how it goes. And then afterwards, the Protoss can still have DTs, but if you get 3 spores, it's super bad for Zerg if it's like a 6 gate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that you can look out for, because the spores, they cost, like 1 spore costs basically 3 drones, right? Because it's like 125 minerals
Yeah.
plus mining time of the drone that you lose. In the early game, when you're holding this, usually you have 40 drones to begin with, so that's a huge part of your economy.
Okay.
That goes down. So Zergs either try to play greedy, and it's usually a guessing game because there's a stalker at home. So if you don't get the 100% confirmation on if there's a dark shrine or not,
Mm-hmm.
that's the one gamble that Zergs take to try and take a lead, or if they get the spores, sometimes that is part of the reason where things started going wrong.
In this game, there was a pretty big scout. I mean, it saw literally everything it really needed to. In
Yeah.
Max Bax is natural. This Overlord just chilled and saw the it saw the third gas timing. It didn't quite see the fourth gas, but it saw the robotics bay, so that's a pretty big tell. Um, what exactly is the pattern recognition here for the gases as the Zerg player? If you were to get easy access to the natural gases post 4-gate adepts, what are you looking for in the gas timings, and what are you scared of the follow up?
If they're very early, you can just make more drones because that means either it's a Dark Shrine or it's a fast Robo Bay. 3 gas very often is Glaive Immortal all in. Very often. So that is like the one tell of that build. Like the more they delay the gases, the more likely it is that they're either all in with extra gates or Immortals. And if you see the gases, you're kind of sure that you can drone up a little bit higher. With his scout, he should have went straight to 60 drones. Like the 2 roaches he makes right now are a mistake. And probably already the last couple he made as well. Because this always ends up in a Disruptor Adapt attack, sometimes with a couple of Stalkers as well, sometimes without, sometimes just its Adepts and Disruptors. But it just can't hit that early, so you can go out straight up to 60 drones.
Right.
And I think he mixed in too many units in between. So he's actually in a... Even though he didn't lose anything, which should be good for Zerg, he made a Spore, I think. Yeah, 1 Spore, which is fine. And then now he just makes a little bit too many units.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
Spire. The Spire is not normal as well.
Any insight into why? Because I mean, maybe he thinks it's an adept, disruptors. Nothing shoots up, right? Which, in an ideal world, that would have worked out.
I think he thought this early game was good enough that he can probably kill this attack and then go and Ling Muta against like Stalker Colossus. But,
Now what happens?
Yeah. Usually you never go spy. Like legit, you never go spy against Glaives. It's just not a thing because the momentum that Goros has, their army, you need to go
Yeah.
fast gases, you need some Ravagers usually.
The idea that that you might take advantage of the time in which they have no anti-airs is almost always a falsehood. They almost always able to build up enough stalkers because you also just don't have that much. Like if this was 16 mutas popping out right now, then of course that'd be a bit scary. But there's just no way that would have happened. Plus Disruptor's got a great shot in the drones. Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah, it's also not good against a Stalker. Usually this ends in a Stalker Colossus Solin, almost always this build. And Mutas are not good against that.
Nope, and that's exactly what ends up happening. The army pushes out with a single Colossus, and then Raynor tries for a very long time actually to make it a win, but it doesn't happen. Yeah, I thought the Robotics Bay was such a strong scout. And I'm actually like a little, do you think that was like just a random placement to throw that down? Because, I guess he didn't know the Overlord was actually there, I suppose. But if he was trying to hide, because up until that point, if we like went back a ways, there was only a 3rd gas scout. He didn't check back in for the 4th. So if the Robotics Bay wasn't placed so obviously there, if it had been in the main, don't you think that Raynor would have been even a little more confused? I mean, I know he loses this game, but... Was that a mistake
he probably
by
would
Max
have
Bax,
rescouted, right? I think he probably shouldn't build the row away there, but the most common follow-up scout will be the main base because the Stalker, while you do the attack, is in the natural wall. So if you have the Overlord alive and you want to get a rescout, usually what you're searching for is a Direct Shrine or extra gates. A Robo Bay is also nice, obviously, because you then know you can make more drones, but it would go to the main, so I can understand why he makes it behind the natural.
Sure.
But given that he didn't kill the Overlord on the pillar, I would call it a mistake. And Raynor probably would have went to rescout for the 4th gas if he didn't see the Robo Bay.
True, yeah, of course. That was a very easy rescout in the 4th cast.
Yeah.
All right, and then last game if you got the time. It did seem like he kind of mustered up the win. Very surprisingly.
Yeah.
Let's see what he did. What he did wrong first, what he shouldn't be doing, I suppose.
He made a lair and I think 1 spore, and that's too much. I think you can make... I think you can't make a lair to begin with. Unless you skip speed and then have some weird wall response. But that's very uncommon if you don't get blocked. Like Glaives is not really a thing if you don't get a block because you can just wall the natural and then you're behind if you go Glaives.
Right.
But if you get blocked, the only way you ever get a lair up with the gas is if you go, I don't know. It's very uncommon to go there, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know why he did it.
So you're like, it's a hard distinction. If you don't get the hatch block, then you probably shouldn't go Adepts.
Yes, you
Okay.
should never start Glaives. You can go like Oracle into Glaives,
Mm-hmm.
but if you don't block, you should never go Glaives right away because you have the drones on the main and the natural, and you can wall
Mm-hmm.
at the natural. So you don't have the factor of you need to be in 2 places at once, at all, because you have all the roaches at the front defending, and then you just wall, so the shade can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've seen that defense happen, but I guess I'm thinking of like some older Adept games where we still had that. I don't know, not
Yeah.
as consistent, I suppose. Like Zerg players are still making mistakes sometimes, but
Yeah,
in the
it
ideal
can always
world.
happen. There's
Alright.
players that still play it.
Okay.
Mainly it's strange, but like that player, the Russian player, plays it.
Right,
still,
yeah.
Even if he doesn't block, but I don't think you will see like a Korean play this build if they don't block.
Okay.
I'd be
alright.
very surprised.
So at this point, Raynor doesn't know what it is. All he sees is a third gas taken, which, as you said, could just be that follow-up. Now he obviously sees all the Adepts warp in, but he didn't actually know that it was a 6-gate. Correct?
Yeah.
I didn't miss anything? Okay.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Yeah. So then this is, I mean, as proper, I think, a defense as he could muster, unless you have notes.
Yeah, that was really good. He basically, because he knew he had no shot at defending the third base right away.
Mm-hmm.
If he splits that way, he instantly moved his drones from the third all to the natural, which makes his defense easier because he can. Obviously, it's easier to defend main and natural than main and third.
Right.
You can rotate way quicker with the Queen Roach Force than you could otherwise. I think there was a little bit of a missed opportunity from MaxPlex. I think on paper he should have always at least killed the third base, if not just straight up won the game. But he played it very passively, respecting Raynor.
Mm-hmm. He does
Actually, does he end
eventually
up
kill
killing
the
a third?
base.
Okay, yeah.
I know eventually, but I'm
That's
not sure it
fine.
was Adepts.
I thought it was with the Immortal at that push. Yeah, I think here he defends it initially. So yeah, this is the 3 guys Immortal at up push that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the Overlord positioning he has there. And because he has constant vision on it, I'm not sure if he 100% knows it, but his start is already not that great. The drone count is even, which is fine actually against Glaive, but he lost a ton of mining time. So the supply is not fine. His roach count is not fine, and his gas mined is not fine. What you want against this is high Ravager count. The one thing that really goes in favor for him here is that he at least cancels the third base of MaxPlex and kills a warp in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think this should be a win for MaxPlex. He
Right.
messed up the fight. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the Immortal just was some. Yeah, I don't know what it was doing. Just literally walked forward.
It wasn't really shooting. Also, if he commits to the shade, I think he wins.
If he commits to the shade.
Yeah, because so many drones will die. I think he should shade to the natural,
Uh huh.
commit to the shade, like let it finish. On top of the drones, you're gonna kill like 10 drones, shade to the main, while you try to do stuff with the Immortals, because it's already a 2-base Zerg. And then eventually you just throw down a rollaway at home and chill. Because you can't go across the map ever and kill the Protoss
Yeah.
with this setup. It doesn't happen.
Nope.
Like legit ever.
Yeah, he canceled the third hatch again. I mean, it was weirder. Yeah, because that follow-up just didn't seem to have as much... It didn't do as much damage as it should have with an Immortal wandering around
yeah.
and whatnot.
Still winning, by the way, really hard. I don't know why, but he goes charge Templar Archives. If he just makes 2 Disruptors and Stalkers and Blink, I think he just also wins. It's a really awkward follow-up. He made a Robobay and then I think he forgot he made a Robobay.
Oh
So
my
he doesn't
gosh,
use
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're right.
And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go Immortal Charge with Archon. But he already made the Robobay. And also Disruptors in this situation are insane. So
Yeah. No, that is weird. I mean, I noted that he got a Forge and then decided not to ever get an upgrade, but I, kind of chalked it up to the weirdness of the game. But I guess he was more affected by the weirdness because, yeah, he just has an entire structure he never ends up using.
yeah, I think he
That's
ends
odd.
up making like 1 very late. Where he realizes he has one. Yeah, now he
There we
makes
go.
1. But yeah, the normal transition from this, because you already have many range units and you have many robo units, is you go Stalker, Disruptor, and then Colossus. If he was to go for that, I think he would have had a nice timing. Even just, I think the best he could have done is just 2 disruptors and you go again with Adept, Stalker, Immortal, Disruptor. I think there was very little that Rainer could have done there. Because the charge lots, they don't really synergize well with his army. Because Rainer will kite the charge lots
Yeah.
without his robo units dealing maximum damage. So I would have preferred seeing him go for the more ranged unit approach.
Yeah, I could see that. And what do you think about all these upgrades that Rainer's getting right now, while also knowing he's gonna have to defend?
Yeah, crazy. I don't know why he's going. I
Tumbling
think he
Claws
doesn't know
and
that there's
Burrow.
no gases, right? He scouted the Forge, so he thinks it's a macro game, and he didn't
Gotcha.
scout that there were no gases, no drones on the base.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know why he's going Burrow movement. I haven't seen it in a while.
And then he just kind of YOLOs to win, which works out.
Yeah.
I myself want to take another look at this engagement. I didn't really believe it when I saw it. Yep, it's coming. There we go. Yes, the Zealots doesn't move back because the Banelings are a threat. Archon's going to stop in the back, which is awkward.
Like if you look at what the Zealots are actively
Yeah.
doing, not that
Oh
much.
my god. And he actually missed some micro there. I mean, I know he's doing a billion things at once, but Warp Prism micro is not nearly as impressive as you would expect. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit shaky. I think Rainer has like 10 series wins in a row or something against Max. Or
Yeah,
maybe
he's
a
like
little
1 in
bit less,
9.
but
Yeah. Or
yeah,
9 in 1.
it's something insane.
Yeah.
So could be a little bit of a mental thing as well, because he was definitely winning that game with like 2 base 44 workers against 2 base 44 workers. I don't think Protoss supposed to lose that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, good notes. I'll let you go now. Thanks for staying over a little bit and finish up
No
that
worries.
series. And much appreciated for your general help here. So we head to the EWC. I know nothing's announced, but guys, you might have some good news if you're a Lambo fan, if anything ever does get announced. And
we will see.
yeah, I'll be seeing you soon, I think. So thanks, and I'm looking
Maybe.
forward to it. Yeah, maybe working with you.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
man. See ya.